The ending of Jujutsu Kaisen opens up with us seeing Yuji, Megumi, and Nobara assigned on a mission to help a woman and her fiancé who are being targeted by a curse user. This curse user has the ability to alter the appearance of her fiancé, making him look cartoonish, but only she can see it. After some time trying to figure things out and going over the logistics and creating a plan, the team eventually figures out that there is a range to this curse user's ability, and they wind up sending the couple 40 floors up into this high-rise, while the team themselves go onto the roof. Once the couple was out of the range of this cursed user, they find him on the roof, where Megumi instantly captures him using the assistance of his divine dog. It's revealed that this curse user was, I think, like a customer of this girl, where she was like a hostess at some place, and he was like obsessed with her and he bought her gifts, but she didn't like reciprocate his feelings, so it made him jealous and he stalked her, and then he used his jujutsu to make her fiance look different to mess with her. I think that's what's happening here. But after the team successfully captures him and puts him in the car to, I guess, send him to Jujutsu jail, I don't really know where they send criminals, to be honest. Yuji's trying to cheer up the guy, saying like, hey, it's going to be fine. It's not like you're going to get executed or anything. And then Yuji remembers back to one of his last moments with Gojo during that 1 month time skip before the final battle with Sukuna. And Yuji's like, hey, after I do my body swap training with Kusakabe, how about I do it with you, Gojo? And then Gojo's suddenly like, you know what? Haven't we had enough of Satoryu, Gojo? And Yuji's like, what? And Gojo's like, I want you to be a bit more forward thinking. Like, think about the future, Yuji. There's a dream I want you to carry on in my wake should anything happen to me. But if this is where I bow out, there will be a time where you guys can grow up more than I ever did, right? At least one of you should just completely forget about me and develop strengths that are your own. And Yuji's like, none of us could ever forget you. You seem kind of out of character. Are you okay? And Yuji's absolutely right. Gojo is sounding out of character because he is. I genuinely believe that this is damage control from Gege. He's trying to talk to the audience here through Gojo, saying like, hey, I know you guys are upset that I killed him off, but it's okay because I'm sick of Gojo, and I want the story to progress past him despite how popular he is. And it's like, I get it. It's your story. You can do whatever you want. But from a fan perspective and a marketing perspective, it's just not a good move. I've talked about this before. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but this is definitely not the same Gojo from before the Shibuya arc. I especially also think that Gojo wouldn't be thinking this way after spending all that time in the prison realm. Because keep in mind, it's only been, a week or two since he got out of that at this point, and he's just so eager to die and give up his life. I know he's not literally saying that, but these last couple times that we've been seeing these flashbacks of Gojo, he's essentially been saying that, yeah, I know I'm going to die against Sukuna. And it just makes it seem all the more unnecessary and just wasted potential. Since this is the final chapter, I'll say it one last time. They all could have defeated Sukuna and Kenjaku if they teamed up together with Gojo. That's just the truth. But I guess we wouldn't have much of a series if that were to happen, right? But I digress. That is the last time that we will ever see Gojo in the series, in this flashback where... But first, guys, let's talk about this new app that I discovered called Sekai that lets you make your own story with your own characters or existing characters from all of the series that we love. And that's because Sekai is a social app focused on storytelling. It's not just a chatbot. It caters to a wide range of interests, from animes like Jujutsu Kaisen, Demon Slayer, or Marvel, Harry Potter, even House of Dragons. You can input your own chosen characters, whether they are the popular ones that we like or your own original creations, or just straight up self-inserts, and either select a story or write your own, because Sekai then generates avatars and captivating stories, letting you truly live in your own fantasy. So I wound up making my own story by using Sukuna, Deku, and Tanjiro, and this just seems like a great opportunity for them to team up to take down Sukuna.
Well, what do we have here? A boy who thinks he can be a hero and a relic from an era long past.
Sukuna, we won't let you destroy this city. Tanjiro, we need to work together. My quirk and your breathing techniques might be our only chance.
And you just don't have to do like battle or adventure stuff. You could also just straight up do smut. Wound up making this story where I'm essentially in a love quartet.
You know you can't resist me, darling.
I can't help it. Please, Alice. I need you.
I know exactly what you need, baby.
And this got hot and heavy very fast. I mean, I can't really show you too much of this on YouTube, but of course you could make your own, way better than mine. And you can do that by checking out the link in the description, because that's where you can download Sekai. Thanks, guys. He ultimately just tells Yuji that he's expecting great things from him. Then we come back to real time with Yuji talking to this stalking curse user, where he tells him the same thing, that he's expecting great things from him, because he's going to allow this dude to help them on their next mission. Like, he's going to join Jujutsu High, essentially. Then after this, Nobara asks Yuji, by the way, what you do with that thing? And he says, oh, I tossed it. It'll be fine. Not like it's anything dangerous anymore. It should be the perfect talisman now. And I'm pretty sure what Yuji is referring to here is the final Sukuna finger. The finger that Nobara hit with resonance after she woke up, that allowed Yuji to land his final sequence against Sukuna. That finger still exists, and we actually see it in the final panel of the chapter. So considering that Yuji's saying it's fine, it's not like it's anything dangerous anymore, means that it is just literally a talisman. It doesn't have an aspect of Sukuna's soul anymore, or at least that's the implication here. But speaking of Sukuna, we actually see him. And it's not like the flashback that we saw with Gojo, but this is like literally Sukuna in his final sequence here, because we're seeing what he says to be a vestige of his own soul. And he's talking to Mahito. They're in like this blank realm, very similar to that realm that we saw Kenjaku in before the Culling game started, where Kenjaku said that the space between dream and reality is a curse. So whatever that means, man, I don't know. It's up to you for interpretation. Again, I've said this many times, Gege has always ambiguously used the word curse. It's kind of annoying. It means like 17 different things, but he probably does it on purpose. It's actually going to be used again in this sequence where, like I said, Sukuna is talking to Mahito. I assume this is like two fragments of their souls speaking in whatever the afterlife is, or purgatory, or what leads to the afterlife. Let me just point out, for anyone who's not a hardcore Jujutsu Kaisen fan, we don't know anything about that stuff. There's no mention of life outside of the Jujutsu world. We do know that souls are a thing, of course, but we don't know, like, what exactly the soul is, other than what we picture it to be in our minds, you know, given what we learned throughout our lives about it. But literally, like, in the Jujutsu Kaisen lore, not really sure what it is, where it comes from, where it goes. So we're left with just this, and questions, and how the vestiges work, and why are they able to communicate with each other. We don't know. Probably never know. But anyway, Mahito's like, oh, hey, Sukuna, I didn't think I'd see you here. Sukuna's like, oh, what is this, our second conversation? I think it might be their third, or at least the third time that they've come face to face. I think so, I could be wrong. But he says, my technique messes with the soul after all. Consider this a vestige. Welcome to the pathway souls walk on their way down the cycle. That's like cycle. Like what? Death and rebirth? Or the death of a human soul into it becoming a curse? Or like a cursed spirit? Because Mahito is not that. Mahito is pure cursed spirit. He's manifested from the fear of humanity. But Sukuna started off as a human and somehow became like a cursed spirit, kind of. He's like a pseudo-cursed spirit. But going further, Mahito's like, you were lying, weren't you? To yourself and to the others. You weren't living according to your own stature. You just wanted revenge. Revenge against the world that resented and persecuted that wretched cursed child. So that's really cool, actually, because it's somebody actually talking about Sukuna's backstory here. Now, how Mahito knows that? I have no idea. He technically shouldn't know any of this. He's only I don't know, a couple weeks old. And it's not like he's pre-born like an Atreides would be in Dune. He's kind of just comes into the world and then he knows what he knows, I suppose, kind of like already being born as an adult. I think this is the same thing that Sukuna was getting at. When he used the divine flame against Jogo, he said, oh, that's right, you wouldn't know what this is. Because he has no recollection of Sukuna's history other than what somebody would have told him. Just taking a guess here. But back to what Mahito says here. Revenge against the world that persecuted that wretched cursed child. Sukuna did say that he was an unwanted child and that he was creepy. That's all pretty much that we know. And given that he was a conjoined twin, we can assume that he always looked like this. He always had forearms and the messed up right side of his face. The messed up right side of his face I don't think is a birth defect. It seems like he made it that way. Like he somehow underwent the process of becoming a curse and then stopped it possibly. You know, similar to like what we saw happen with Naoya. Naoya killed without the use of Jujutsu, then became a vengeful cursed spirit. But there could be a way to go through that process but then stop before you completely turn into a cursed spirit, and you can still retain the aspect of your humanity and kind of have both. Like I said, something kind of like a pseudo-human cursed spirit hybrid thing, which I thought Sukuna was, but we'll just never know because we don't know where it starts and ends with his body. Like, was he just lucky? Like, he was just born the perfect jujitsu user? You know, having the forearms, the mouth on the stomach. It all seems premeditated because we know the functions that they serve. And it's all for jujitsu and the strategies that Sukuna uses. So if he didn't look like that, then he just looked all messed up. And he was just an outcast of society because, you know, he kind of like Quasimodo, the Hunchback of Notre Dame. Right? So what Mahito is essentially saying here is that Sukuna's life and his ethos to live like a hedonistic Saiyan is him just suppressing his desire for revenge because he was mistreated by everyone as a child. And Sukuna kind of just brushes it to the side, not giving a full answer here, and he says, and what does it matter? Living the only way I knew how, that's how I choose to go on. But no, I did have different paths to travel. 2 paths, to be precise. And then we see the 2 paths as Sukuna mentions this. On his left, which is the audience's right, we see Urarame. And on his right, to the audience left, is, I'm pretty sure, Yorozu? It's hard to tell who this woman is, okay? It could be just a new character that we don't know about from the Heian era or whatever. Could be Tengen, but that's not what Tengen looked like as a woman, unless it's one of like his star plasma vessels, but that would be weird. But if you look at the bangs, they kind of look like Yorozu, although Yorozu never dressed like this. She's usually naked and her hair's all wild. But I assume that this has to be Yorozu, since it seems to be positing the 2 paths that Sukuna would have taken for love in his life. Now what I'm about to say is just my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe it's up for interpretation, but one of the big aspects of Sukuna was love. How he perceived it and how others wanted to give it to him or show him what it is. Urarame was more of a sycophant, a disciple. She loved him, of course, and in his own weird sociopathic way, I'm sure he loved her too. But that's all that she could give him and show him, being a sycophant. As to her Yorozu, it seemed like she more so loved Sukuna because he was awesome. And more in a traditional sense of like being his wife and them having a relationship. Urarame not so much. Like actually being his wife. Where Urarame is kind of like his, I don't even know, like assistant / concubine disciple person. But he says if there's to be a next time, perhaps it would be nice to try a different path. And he says that as he's touching Urarame's shoulder, and it seems that she's crying. So the different path, I suppose, is implying for him to have traditional love with somebody like Yorozu. And Mahito's like, what? That's so boring. You've gone soft. And Sukuna's like, naturally, I lost after all. And Mahito's like, what? So I'm the only one left sulking like a child? And Sukuna walks away with Urarame. So does that mean that there will be a part 2 to Jujutsu Kaisen? Probably not. I think it's just literally him saying if there was a next time, not that there is going to be a next time, but him choosing a different path. Does that mean that Sukuna is having a face turn here? I don't think so. That would be incredible. Something I never even really considered. Especially if there was like a Jujutsu Kaisen part 2 and Sukuna comes back as a freaking good guy, at the minimum, a neutral, at the minimum, a like true neutral entity, or maybe like an anti-hero. Man, that would be really exciting. It's not going to happen. I don't want to get your hopes up, but man, the possibilities. But after that, we see the groups of the Jujutsu High sorcerers and their own teams smiling in their last moments in the series. And in the final panel, we see in that shrine, from the very first chapter and episode that originally held the first Sukuna finger that was consumed by Yuji, once again holds Sukuna's final finger. But, as Yuji said earlier, it's harmless, meaning that there is no aspect of Sukuna's soul left in it, meaning that if somebody were to eat it, he wouldn't possess them anymore. Or, at least, in theory. But that is it for Jujutsu Kaisen. I truly and genuinely want to thank everyone who has followed my coverage of this series for the last couple years. I started over 3 years ago, and it's been really exciting and a lot of fun covering this series with you guys. Yes, Jujutsu Kaisen is over, but that doesn't mean that our time together is over, because I'm still covering battle anime on the channel, guys. I'm not going anywhere. One Piece is still going on, as well as One Punch Man. Those two series have probably another 10 years left in them. Just taking a guess. And as for what is replacing Jujutsu Kaisen on the channel, that will be the Shonen Jump series called Kagurabachi. It's about 50 or 51 chapters in at the time of this recording, and I'll try to put out a recap video as soon as I can. But starting next week, Kagurabachi will be replacing Jujutsu Kaisen on this channel, and it's pretty good. It's a fun series. It's similar to Jujutsu Kaisen, so it's going to be an easy transition, guys. But again, thank you guys for everything, and I hope you guys stick around for the future series that we're going to be covering on the channel, and have a great day. See you in the next one.